Hello, welcome to All Villa No Filler. Remember to subscribe to the show, follow us on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, we're just days away from Aston Villa's first game of the season at West Ham, so it's about time we've recorded our season preview. Will Villa finally win the league? Yes. Will Unai Emery be the first manager sacked? No. Can Ollie Watkins hit 20 goals? Yes. But before we get to all that, Frankie, busy few days for you. How are you?
Yeah, it's been super busy. Firstly, it's fantastic to see you again, George. I'm loving your retro
Thank you very.
90s
Yes, that's
shirt.
right. Bit of yogurt there for you,
Yeah,
Frankie. Bit of
yeah,
yogurt.
yeah.
Other yogurts are available, but that's one.
Yeah, it takes you back to winning the Coca-Cola Cup in '94 because I think that was the shirt. I think that's a shirt the late great Dalian Atkinson and Dean Saunders wore in that final, that 3-1 win over Man United. Yeah, very busy. Interviewed Luis Miguel Echegaray, ESPN FC analyst, one of the we all love him, don't we, in the Villa fan base, top man. Had a good chat with him about the season ahead, and went on the Claret and Blue podcast as well with Dan Rowlinson, John Townley, and Matt
So,
Kendrick. Absolutely fantastic, amazing experience just hanging out with them and actually getting to do it sort of live in person. I said it it's quite this podcast we basically all do it online, so it was really nice to have that dynamic of bouncing off people, and the fact that they were all really nice and funny and knowledgeable as well just made it even better. So yeah,
down
had a
at
brilliant time.
Podymore Heath.
Podymore Heath is a great name.
It's a
I,
brilliant. It's a very good name.
although I think we need to call our studio the University. That's
Yeah, this is the Unai. This is where people they come, the Villa fans they come, they learn a few things from me and you. It's the University.
they learn nothing from us.
They learn nothing from us.
Yes,
No.
but no, it's yeah, Podway is a great name, but yeah, it was just great, and it was nice to be up in Birmingham as well to do it as well because I don't get to go up as much as I'd like, but to go up and just be back home essentially was great.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Frankie, I can tell you're very happy at the moment, but how are you feeling about the upcoming season, Frankos?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of absolute incredible excitement, isn't it? The Champions League theme will be playing. In life, you've got your birth of your first child, your wedding day, Champions League theme. That comes top, doesn't it? For
Certainly
Villa's
does.
Champions, way beyond all of that. Yeah, I'm extremely excited about Champions League football. I'm really excited to see how Villa evolve under Unai Emery. It's a long-term project. He's here till 2029, all being well, and I think it's going to be some seasons of real ups, some seasons where we have a bit of a transitional phase. And I think we are going to have a bit of a transition in the sense we've lost two really key players in Moussa Diaby and Douglas Luiz, particularly Luiz. And now we've got quite a few new players who've come in. So there is going to be an adaptation process for the new players, for the rest of the Villa team to get used to that. And then Unai Emery to himself sort of work out what works and what doesn't. But I think ultimately, there's so much quality in this team that it'll come together. Professor Unai will have a plan. The University will kick into gear. So yeah, I'm very excited. Very realistic about how tough it's going to be with all them Champions League games as well. But how can you not be excited, George? I mean, how are you
Yeah.
feeling about it?
I mean, yeah. I mean, Champions League. As soon as you hear that music, you see the Champions League crest. I don't currently have it
Yeah.
on this shirt, but the crest on the side of the shirt there, the music, they're lining up. They hear the anthem. It's just going to be amazing, isn't it? That first night at Villa Park when we play, whoever we play, doesn't matter. We'll beat them. It's going to be really exciting. The one thing I would say, Frankie, is just little things just in recent weeks that have kind of tempered my mood slightly. And I don't know how you feel about all this, but it's mainly to do with sort of transfer related stuff. I think
Mm.
kind of the ongoing saga with João Felix and Jean Duran have sort of left a bit of a sour taste for me. I'll be honest. And I think, although we've certainly improved the overall squad depth, which was something that we definitely lacked last year. I think
Yes.
we do, I think particularly with Luis and Diaby going. And I know Diaby was only there for one season, but he's French international, very very good player. Played in a good league before joining us as well. I think we have lost a little bit of experience and quality in key areas. I
Yeah.
think we could still need a bit of strengthening up front and a bit of strengthening at the back. But the thing is, we're still, I mean, it's what, the 14th of August today. There's still, a couple of days left of the transfer season, transfer window to go, even though the season kicks off on Saturday. So I do expect there to be a lot of, I do think there'll be a fair few ins and outs before then.
Mhm.
And it was slightly demoralizing to hear Unai this morning on TalkSport talk about, the need to sell more players before bringing people in. I know he did mention that the squad itself is quite big, so just on a practical level, we can't really bring any more before other players leave. But he did mention again PSR and the way we have to balance our books, and it's just kind of frustrating when you see us compared to other clubs. I'm not going to mention them right now, but you see other clubs just signing players literally willy-nilly,
Yeah.
and that doesn't seem like they're restricted in any way, the way that we are. And I think I think Monchi was speaking again on TalkSport this morning, and he was saying the same thing. Like, PSR is really restrictive for a club like Villa, who were trying to organically break into the top six, top four on a regular basis, season after season. But the way it's structured at the moment makes it really difficult for a club like us to do that. The fact we have to try and sell our academy players to bring in this sort of pure profit thing
Mhm.
is frustrating for him. It's frustrating for us as fans because we want to keep players who are, Villa born and bred at the club, get them through into the first team, have them playing regularly, like a Jacob Ramsey. And obviously he was linked with a move away. He could, potentially he could have gone if the finances meant that we had to do that. And yeah, it is a little bit kind of, you see Hooks or Kellyman go. It is a little bit sort of frustrating, I think, sometimes that we have to bow to these regulations as they currently are. But yes, I mean, absolutely. My overall sense is certainly one of excitement, particularly with the Champions League on the horizon. And I do think once we get motoring in the league, I think we should have another really good season.
Yeah, 100%. And I think you're dead on about the PSR issue. It is an absurdity that Villa have had to sell two key players to play with it. I mean, it does raise questions about what sort of money Villa was spending. I keep coming back to the Perslow Gerrard year, big wages, big contracts, big transfer fees for players I don't think made enough of a differential, and that we've tried to sell since and are on, like Dendonka, players like that, for instance. Yeah. But I think the aim this transfer window has been buying young
Yeah,
players
very
that
much
can
so.
then have resale value in a fair few years. It does mean it's going to be difficult to keep up the standard where we were last season when you've got so many young players, because they are going to be learning themselves, and they're not always going to be in perfect form, and some of them will work and some of them won't. But ultimately, it seems like a smarter approach than what we were doing under Gerrard and Purslow, having these players who have high ceilings, and some of them have already proven themselves. Like Anana's 22, he's shown what he can do already.
Yeah.
In Matson 22, again, he's Champions League finalist. So we have signed well, but it is, yeah, I agree. It's massively frustrating that Chelsea can do what they do, and Villa ultimately have had to kind of lose key players when we're going into a Champions League season. And yeah, it does throw into question just how viable current PSR rules are.
Well, speaking of transfers, Frankie, what do you make of the window so far? Because there's been a lot of movement, both ins and
Hmm.
outs, hasn't there already?
Yeah, for sure. I like Anana. I think I just feel good about that signing. I think he adds the physicality that we lacked in midfield for a long time. I think last season when you watched Villa, it would go from composed and in control to casual. It was me and you being focused on work, and then we go out to a bar and we have a little cocktail each, and we forget that we're supposed to be man marking, some Brentford player who's run past us. It,
Yeah.
it it could get a bit like that sometimes at Villa, and I'd like to think Anana maybe adds a bit more physicality and bite in midfield to try and ensure things like that don't happen as much. Also, his height should help us with the fact that we were not great at defending set pieces last season, looked quite chaotic at times. So I think certainly having that profile helps. I also think he's possibly a more attacking player than we've seen so far in his career. He's always played CDM at Everton. So to see him as a progressive player would be an interesting one if that's what Emery ever gets out of him. Ian Matson as well, Champions League finalist, top quality player, Dutch international. Can invert into midfield, which Aston Villa have never done. So that's different tactic. And then I think they're the two players that add to the first 11. I'm not sure
Yeah.
our first 11 as strong as it was at the end of last season, but at the same time, if you look at our squad, I think there's certainly more depth, and that's where we had a real problem last season. Towards the tail end, we were really on fumes, weren't we? And I think this season we've kind of mitigated that. Hopefully, Jaden Philogene coming back another player who could have a very high ceiling indeed. Morgan Rogers in that front two, who knows, he could be a real standout star this year. And then Samuel Ireland Jr., Enzo Baranachea. They just add a bit of depth here and there, don't they? And yeah, I think that was definitely needed. But I would like to see, I'd like to see a second striker come in who's a ball dominant player, very good at controlling the ball, kind of like Tielemans was last season in that second striker role, playing with Luis deeper. Now Tielemans is playing in that Luis role. I'd love to see someone who could retain the ball in tight situations, work an assist, get a goal here and there, and then also just another big defender, someone who gets in there, wins them headers, screams and shouts at everyone, takes me and you aside. Me and you look like two little dweebs next to them. Just they'd turn us upside down, shake us upside down for our lunch pocket money. Someone like that. Play like that.
I completely agree. As I said before, I think definitely a centre back and someone to help Ollie up front would be great. And if we do manage to do that, then I'd be really, really happy with the window for sure. Agree with you about squad depth. I think Nedeljkovic has had a good pre-season. I think he looked very good against Bilbao. But he's only 18, 19. He's super young, so to throw him in to the first team action is going to be a big ask for him. I don't say he can't do it. I'm really interested to see how Emery will involve him in the squad this season, because he looks a real talent. And also let's not forget we have got players coming back from long-term injury. I mean, Wendy has been involved a lot in pre-season, sort of mainly coming off the bench, but he's got some minutes in the tank now. Obviously, Ramsey is back. Yeah. He's going to feel like a new signing. He scored in pre-season against Bilbao. Mings is on his way back too. So that's something to think about as well. It's like with all those players coming back, it does bolster the overall depth of the squad, and hopefully all of those players will have a part to play. And I'm sure they will do. Mm-hmm. And as I say, it still feels like it's in flux. There's players who could still leave. I mean, obviously Duran is an ongoing one. I've seen today he's finally been given a squad number, the number 9. Who in recent seasons our number 9s have been quite enigmatic, haven't they, Frankie? Yeah. They've last year it was Bertrand Traore. We've had, who else has been our number 9? Marlon Harewood.
Yeah, I've had some weird ones.
We've had some odd ones. So I mean, he could stay around. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he beds in. I would love to see him score for us on Saturday in the 95th minute, and then go up to the Hammers fans and give it some of that to them.
That would be so funny. I would learn how to sculpt Roman era statues and build the image of that and plant it outside my front.
Oh, it would just. I think I would end the season there. I think, Frankie. I think nothing will top that moment if it happened. The Adebayor on his knees doing that for the West Ham fans.
The podcast me and you do after the title is Season Review.
Yeah. Well, what a fantastic season it's been.
It's great.
Frankie, how can you forget the West Ham game? That was good.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Highlight of the season.
So that's what I really, really want to see. But if he, I mean, obviously what he did was very annoying and it upset a lot of Villa fans. And then I keep going back to the fact he's a kid and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just being a bit silly. And I hope that if he does stick around, it's a big if. But if he does stick around, that he does knuckle down and Unai sort of knocks some sense into him and he can kind of go back to focusing on his football. I think that's the thing. If he focuses on his football, he's such a talented player. We saw it in games against Liverpool. If he knuckles down, then he will feel like a new signing as well. So, a few more, a couple more weeks to go of the window, and I do expect more movement. But so far, I think you're right. I think the overall quality of the starting 11, I'm not sure it's at the level of last year, but the squad depth has improved quite a lot. So that will help over the course of what will be a busy season. We will need to be relying on a lot of players coming in and out of the team. So that's the squad. That's the transfer window. Mm-hmm. But Frankie, who will be top scorer? I wonder who you might say. It's going to be it'll be an interesting one.
I've seen Joe Gauchi on the ball in pre-season. He's very composed. He's a good,
very composed. Great finisher.
Yeah, he can kick it quite far. I mean, It's the easiest guess in the world, isn't it? This one, Ollie Watkins, and I'm going to say he gets over 20 goals in the Premier League this season. Um, I think I'll say he'll hit 21.
21.
Yeah.
21. What's that game called again? That card game? It's not called. Is it just called 21? I
Is
think
it,
there's another name
I
for it
think
as well.
oh, is it? Oh, there's people screaming at us now, and it'd be like, and we're so clueless. It's like, oh, was it poker? Uh, roulette?
We played it in Vegas.
Yeah,
It wasn't called
yeah.
21. I call it
What?
21.
Blackjack?
Blackjack.
Another one?
That's it. Blackjack.
Yeah,
Very good.
yeah.
So Watkins is on for the blackjack. I'm not so sure, you know. I think he will be I think he will be our top scorer, definitely. I think last season was so good for him. I think, you know, opponents this year will target him perhaps more so than last year. I
Mhm.
think maybe, you know, there'll be much more of a focus on him as the guy for us and the main goal threat. Not to say he doesn't have the quality to get the better of a lot of these defenders, and he will score a lot of goals. I do believe that, and hopefully he will build on the confidence that he is no doubt accumulated during the international with the Euros basically. That will help him as well this season, I'm sure. But I kind of think there'll be goals coming from elsewhere. You know, I think Rodgers and Ramsey, if they can help him out, then I don't think he'll need to score as many goals this season. I think, you know, goals will come from elsewhere around him. But I certainly do think he'll be nudging 20 goals. I think though last season just felt like a bumper year, and he
Yeah.
will score a lot of goals. I just don't think he will get as many as last year. That's just my overall feeling.
I think that's a fair argument.
Yeah, I think so. But if you're listening and disagree, you know where we are on YouTube.
Yeah.
Leave us a comment.
And
Um,
if you like what we're saying, give us 5-star reviews on Spotify on that phone app and Apple as well. Can't express enough how helpful they are to help keep growing this podcast. Thank you so much, everyone who's done that already. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So we move on from Ollie Watkins being top scorer to player of the season, Frankie. Who do you think will be the player of the
Well,
season?
if Ollie Watkins gets 21 goals, it's very hard to argue against the idea that he'll probably end up player of the season. But you know, I'm going to go with Morgan Rogers. You know, one I'm really interested to watch is Jacob Ramsey. Very interested to see how he does this season and
Yeah.
how he can come back and if he can refine that form that he showed when Unai Emery came into Villa, and Jacob Ramsey looked like an inevitability for England at that point, didn't he? It's such a shame what happened with that injury. So I can't wait to see how he does this season, and maybe a dark horse for a player who really raises his level and takes Villa further. But I just think with Morgan Rogers, his improvement from when he came in from Middlesbrough, or his not improvement necessarily, but his kind of growth as a Premier League player has been absolutely remarkable. And there were just signs last season where you could see his intelligence, his ability to beat a man with skill, his ability to hold the ball up, turn and run at a player, link up play. There were a couple of like weaker parts of his game. Sometimes he'd make a wild pass, or every game he seems to make a wild pass. But by and large, you know, the 3 goals he scored for us were all fantastic goals, all from kind of the area we'd expect a striker or a second striker to be. And then in pre-season, he's been playing in the front 2. So I expect he might play as a second striker quite a lot this season. But I also theorise he might end up being the heir to Ollie Watkins. I've said for a long time, I think he might end up being an out-and-out striker. He played as an out-and-out striker against Athletic Club last week, and he was brilliant. His intelligence, his link-up plays, layoffs, the 2 of Villa's goals came from him. He scored a fantastic disallowed goal as well. And to pull off a goal like he did, that chip over the keeper, if you saw it, just that is the ability to do that. I just feel like there's a player there where if he continues to improve at the rate he has, there's a very good chance he's picked for England, not just before the end of the season, but really soon, and becomes quite a prominent player. And I sort of have him as the player that I think Aston Villa fans know all about him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he plays so well for Villa. I really hope he does now, having bigged him up this much. But if he does play as well for Villa as I hope he can, he's the player that I think other Premier League fans, when I'm down here in London, they're all like, "Oh yeah, Aston Villa, all right. Oh yeah, you're all right. 10-bar pound, all right. But that Morgan Rogers, he's all right. You know, having a little bit of that. So people saying, you know, people recognising Morgan Rogers has got got something special about him. So yeah, I'm gonna say him.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely will put his name down to one of the categories further down the list of the preview that you've provided me, Frankie. But I think I do think he will have a really good season. I think he's already had a pretty decent preseason, really good end to last season. As you say, he's sort of flying under the radar a little bit. He's in my fantasy team, Frankie, because he's still quite cheap, surprisingly so,
Mm.
and I think he will. I think he will be involved in a lot of the attacking stuff that Villa will do this season. He already has done, as I said at the end of last season. I think he'll have a. I think he will have a strong season. And yeah, he's been injury free. And like Ramsey, he's probably still coming back into things a little bit more. Rodgers is going to very much hit the ground running, which is a positive thing. I'm going to say someone a bit left field. I think Pau Torres could have a really, really good
Okay.
season for us. I think last season was his first season, obviously, with us. He had a few injury problems as well, which kept him out of the side for large spells. Um, and Yeah, I think the fact that he wasn't in the Spanish squad during the Euros, I mean, for me that was a surprise because he obviously had a really good season for us despite his injuries. But I think that means that he sort of comes into the season fresher. He'll have more confidence now because he will know the club more. He'll know the players around him more. And he's just a quality player. He's a brilliant defender. And I think, defensively last season we did struggle. I think we everyone knows from like set pieces, corners, we weren't fantastic. Um, but I think a partnership, if they can stay together, a partnership of Konsa and Torres is really strong. I think as a unit. I think if they can play together for the majority of the season, I know Mings is coming back, and I'm not sure what's happening with Carlos at the moment, and maybe we'll get Truder in from Feyenoord. I hope we do, but as things stand at the moment, I think those two could be a really strong central defensive partnership, and I think he could be the stronger of the two.
Mhm.
And he's such an integral player to how we play. He carries the ball out. His long ball play is superb. His range of passing is excellent. And I think if he carries on in the way that he has done from last season, I think he will once again be a really integral part of the team for sure. So big up Pau Torres. Right, the next one is young player of the season. I mean,
Mhm.
I've given the game away. For me, it's Morgan Rogers for all the reasons that you described. So I won't say any more.
Mhm.
Frankie, who do you think will be young player of the season?
I'm gonna go with Kostan Delikovic. I've been bigging him up all pre-season. To anybody who's listened to the podcast, I think every video I've ever watched of him, I think he's a very high impact player. The thing that really stuck out to me from his time at Red Star is just the way he bombs forward, his pace and physicality is very tall. I'm not saying he's the next Gareth Bale, but what I am saying is that he looks on the eye a little bit like when Gareth Bale was that age playing in that
Well, did
sort
you
of
did you see
position.
he did that kind of Gareth Bale knock and run
Yep.
against Bilbao,
Yep.
which looked sort of frightening. But it's a preseason friendly, so it's very hard to read into that.
All we're saying
He
is
did
he's gonna be the next Gareth Bale.
it.
He's
Put your
gonna be
house on it,
the
everyone.
yeah. 30 goals this season, bicycle kick, Champions League final. That's what he's gonna do. Yeah, I think. But no, I think those two runs he had against Athletic were showed what I saw in those videos. It is that he has this amazing speed and power when he gets forward, and defenders really don't like going against it. And he looks like a modern fullback, somebody who can get forward. And I think, he played full 90 minutes against Dortmund as well in pre-season.
Yeah.
If he can get a couple of decent Premier League performances in quite early doors, I think he might even be a couple of games away from actually putting Matty Cash on the bench. It's dependent. There's a couple of moments I've seen in preseason where he's lost his man a couple of times, and that obviously in the Premier League will get you punished.
Hmm.
But there's enough raw ingredients there, certainly enough hints of a player that you have to think. I understand what Monchi and the scouting department saw in this guy. I understand why he's already played a Champions League game against Man City. There's enough raw ingredients there to think there's a lot of potential with this guy, and somebody I'm really, really excited about.
Did we sign him last summer, but we
Ye-
let Belgrade have him the
Um,
whole season? Or was it January that we signed him?
January, around the
Right.
same
Okay.
same time as Morgan Rogers, and everybody forgot we signed him. And then
Yeah.
it was constantly like, we need a right back, we need a right back. So we have
We,
signed
we
one.
we got one.
Yeah,
He's just not here.
yeah.
He's
It's
in
a,
Serbia.
yeah, it's just gone on
Um,
holiday. Just can't be asked.
yeah, no, he's. Yeah, I don't. I mean, yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, stranger things have happened. Stranger things have
Yeah.
happened. And that back spot it is up for grabs. I mean, Cash has had his moments where he hasn't looked comfortable. I really do hope that he has a great season, because obviously if he has a good season, then the team will. But he has in preseason. Cash has looked a bit uncomfortable in spells as well. So it is up for grabs. And as you say, if Cash does start against West Ham on Saturday and starts the first couple of games, and he struggles, then Djokovic is there. So he will be raring to go, and yeah, he could surprise us, Frankie. So that's not a bad shout. Okay, so where will Aston Villa finish? I mean, what a season we had last year, fourth place.
Mm.
Can we better it? Are we winning the league, Frankie?
Yeah,
Yeah,
easy. It's
yeah. Okay, it's in
easy.
the bag.
Might
Okay.
as well just give up
I
now.
think the
It's
30
easy.
goals from Djokovic will certainly help.
100%. And John Duran's opening day laying a
Yeah.
smack that degeneration X celebration in front of West Ham fans would be funny.
Yeah.
No, I think
Lopetegui just pulling his hair out.
immediately resigns. Yeah, I'm going to say fifth, but I also think Villa can finish higher. I also think there's a chance that Champions League proves to be really, really arduous and tough in the first half of the season. We take a little longer to get going than we did last year, perhaps,
Mm.
and that might, cost us a bit. But I, I just cannot read that top beyond Arsenal, Man City, who I think are the obvious top two. Everyone beneath that who is a potential challenger, I have. It's so hard to figure out because there's so many of
Yeah.
them just look like they have question marks, flaws. Have they really solved a lot of the issues they had? Chelsea still seem a bit of a basket case. Tottenham, that defense, and looks like it
Yeah.
could fly off the handle at any point.
Mm.
Man United, I don't think they've really done what they needed to do, although they signed De Ligt, but I just don't think, I'm not sure I see them improving too much from what they did last season. So Liverpool, who the hell knows with their new manager? Newcastle, will Eddie Howe be a bit found out this season as a bit parochial? I don't know. I just think it's difficult, but I think I'm just gonna say Villa fifth, and that could still be Champions League with coefficient FC.
Yeah, I'm gonna say sixth.
Okay.
Again, I think you're absolutely right. I think but beyond City and Arsenal, anyone can finish anywhere really. I mean, even as far down as West Ham, they've had a really good transfer window and have got a good manager in Lopetegui, so they could be a bit of a dark horse this season. But yeah, I mean, Newcastle, they had tons of injury problems
Yeah,
last
they
year.
did. Yeah.
They seem to have got players back and fit, so they could make a real shot at the Champions League, particularly if they sign
They could.
Gehi as well,
Yeah.
who's been linked with them. And then as you say, Liverpool, all this talk of signing is number six that they haven't managed to get round to doing, but will it affect them? I don't know. I mean, Slot could work wonders with them. You just don't know. United, I think United will improve. I do. I think there were so many question marks around Ten Hag last season, and they finally said, "Okay, no, you are a guy. We're gonna stick with you." And I think just having that security will help. And I think they have made some good signings. I think they will improve. Chelsea, God knows, not sure about how they will do. But yeah, so it's up for grabs. But I just think we'll see how the rest of the transfer window plays out. If we sign, a good quality defender and a good quality forward player, then I might revise my opinion. But I think as things stand, I think we're still just a little bit light in terms of quality. And I think if we get a couple of injuries to key areas again, I think we're gonna struggle again. So well, I think we could fall off basically a little
Mhm.
bit. So I'm gonna go
And
with
And
six.
the thing worth noticing as well is like saying fifth and sixth is like it shows how far we've come in such a short space of
Oh
time.
God, yeah. I mean,
There
yeah,
will be people
mad,
who
isn't it?
say that and look at that and think we're being negative, but we're not. I think it's just a reflection of just how far Villa have come that we could look at those two positions. I think that might even feel like a step back, but at the same time, I sort of think Aston Villa under Unai Emery is a long-term project,
Yeah,
and I think that maintaining European football year after year has to be the aim.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know. I was listening to Emery this morning, and I don't know if you listened to the whole interview, but
I haven't listened
I
to it
think
yet.
he was definitely managing expectations. I think all this talk about financial issues and having to
Yeah.
sell to buy and all the rest of it. I don't think he was suggesting that that he's going to be ramping up expectations. He doesn't expect us to. He didn't explicitly say this, but he wasn't saying we're going to be going for the league this season or going to finish in the Champions League again. I think he was suggesting that it's going to be tough, and of course it's going to be tough. But the fact is, we are in the mix, aren't we? We're in that top six, top seven, top eight anyway.
Mhm.
And as you say, any of those clubs below City and Arsenal can finish anywhere. I mean, we could finish third, we could finish eighth. It could, who knows? But the fact we're in that mix is just a sign of how much we've improved, isn't it? Really, over the
Mhm.
past couple of years. So all is good in the hood, Frankie.
Yeah.
Okay. We've talked about how we'll do in the Premier League, Champions League. How far will we go in the
Yeah.
Champions League,
I
Frankie?
think we're going to have a big night. I think there's going to be a night where we beat a big old name. It's going to be wonderful. Jude Bellingham in tears, sinks to the floor. As Kostas Nedeljkovic runs
We
past him
force him to
again.
like paint over his mural.
Nedeljkovic does what Bale did that year, scores a hat trick against Inter. He'll do it against Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll also have a couple of tough old days out in Champions League. Just will, but I think we're going to get through to the round of 16. Get there, and if we get a good draw, who knows? Maybe even quarter final. But we have a manager who's got Villarreal to a Champions League semi-final not too just 2 years ago. He's
Yeah.
won multiple Europa Leagues, won the Europa League with Villarreal very recently. So he's been there, done it. So I'm gonna say it'll be tough, the Champions League. But I think we can, yeah, I think we can get through the league system, however it works now, and round of 16.
I agree. I think round of 16. Yeah, and I agree with you in terms of there'll be some great nights at Villa Park. I think away from home is where we will struggle, particularly against, the big hitters. There could be a pounding coming our way at the Bernabeu, for example, potentially. But who knows? But I do think at home, under the lights with the anthem, everyone G'd up. I think that's where we can do some damage against some clubs and hopefully get a big win against a big side in Birmingham. But yeah, away from home is where I think we might struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. It depends on if we do get to the round of 16, it might depend on the draw. We could go further. But I think if we get to the round of 16, I would class that as a very satisfactory return to Europe's top table.
Mhm.
Okay, back to domestic. Back to the league. Top six, Premier League top six.
I'm going to say Arsenal do it. They've not done the door long enough. I think they've probably learned a few lessons from last season where it went a bit wrong in December. I think they've learned how to compete with Man City in the Premier League. City, a lot of question marks about the investigation, the charges, Guardiola's future. I think I just saw Oscar Bob has got an injury that might be quite severe, but I don't know. I don't know whether I'm just misreading that on Twitter or it's spreading total fake news, folks. I don't know, but yeah. So I think Arsenal might just do it. I'll say Arsenal first, Man City second. Oh, bloody Chelsea, the most nauseating team on the world. Pure football nihilism. Just buy everyone, and yeah, I mean it could go either way for them. They could be 12th. They could be top. I think if they kept Pochettino, they'd be definitely top three.
Mhm.
Just the way the momentum was building there, it felt like they were
Yeah,
getting their act
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Just don't know now under Enzo Maresca. But I'm going to say they get third just because of the volume
Oh,
of
really?
players they have. I think.
I haven't even got them top six.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're one of I think you can literally ask 100 people where Chelsea will finish in the league, and you'll get
Yeah.
100 answers. Hundredth.
Yeah, I'm going to say Spurs fourth, even though I still think something's going to go wrong there with Ange. I just think the noises from him at the end of last season didn't sound great to me.
Hmm.
And I think a couple of bad results could set it all off a bit there. And the way he sets up his defense reminds me of Kevin Keegan's Newcastle. It's like they're a fantastic team going forward at times, but they just look like one pass can just rip the defense apart there. So,
Mm.
but a reluctant fourth for them, Villa fifth, and I mean Liverpool. I have no idea. I'm just gonna say sixth Liverpool.
Interesting. I am going to go Man City.
Hmm?
I just think, yeah, I mean, definitely the Chargers. I mean, we'll come to this later, but God knows what's going to go on with the Chargers because I think they're going to be reviewed, aren't they, in September, and then maybe action taken depending on whether action needs to be taken in the new year. So we'll see what goes on with that. But I just think. I don't know. I think Haaland last year wasn't like a vintage performance from Haaland, but I just think he'll raise his game again this year. I think players like Grealish will have a lot to prove. De
Yeah.
Bruyne, it could be his last season at Man City. He might want to go. He'll want to go out with a bang. Foden had such a good season last season. I think he'll probably just continue that. They've got an incredible defense with Guardiola. Edison is staying, and he's a great keeper. So. Yeah, it's just I think Man City will just do it. Arsenal again second. I think they'll push them close again. But I just think that they just lack a Haaland basically. I think I know Havertz um could well score a few goals. I just think that up front they are kind of lacking still.
Mhm.
I've gone United third. I think they ended the season really strongly under Ten Hag. They won the FA Cup. They made some good signings, I think, in the summer, and I think Hoyland, second season, I think he might actually have quite a good season for United. Amad Diallo's a really good player. Garnacho, obviously, he's improving. So, yeah, I think United will finish third. I've gone Liverpool fourth. Because I think you're right about Spurs. I think I've got them. I've got Spurs fifth, but I just think, that I hate to say it, but they are Spurs, and there's always something that doesn't quite go right for them in a season. I think they'll finish outside the top four, but Liverpool have that experience, and I think Slot will get a lot out of the strikers. I think Jota, Salah, Nunez are just a class acts, aren't they? I think he will get them purring again up front. So uh, yeah, so I think Man City, Arsenal, United, Liverpool, Spurs, Villa are my top six.
Okay.
There we are. Bottom of the table, relegated. Frankie, who's going down?
Aston Villa.
Liverpool under Slot.
Yeah,
Formwork.
yeah. I think I'm going to say bottom Southampton. I think
Yeah.
uh, Leicester and I think Nottingham Forest just don't feel like they've been on a good journey in the last sort of year. But Brentford are another one I'd keep my eye on. I just think they've. It feels like the momentum of them coming up into the Premier League has sort of gone off now, and it feels a bit like they're. I don't think they'll go down this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if it comes sooner rather than later. Just I don't know. Tony hasn't quite hit the form, has he yet? But I think they might just have enough quality and experience to keep them up this season.
Yeah, I think I definitely keep my eye on Brentford. I've gone Leicester bottom. I just think I look at their team at the moment. I just think there's no quality there. I don't know. Southampton, uh, and Ipswich to go
Okay.
down. I think Ipswich will be like a bit like Luton. I think they've got a good manager for sure, and they'll be competitive in games. I just think again the quality just isn't there. I think the thing about Brentford and Forest is they do have that Premier League experience fundamentally. Like they know what the clubs are about that they're playing against week in week out. The managers are more experienced. So I think that alone will kind of keep them up. If
Mhm.
Brentford keep Tony, big if, but if they do, then that will really help their cause. And Forest, they made some moves in the window, haven't they? So they'll be hoping that they hit the ground running and help them. But yeah, I think Leicester, Southampton, Ipswich has to go straight back down, which is a bit disappointing. You'd like them to be more competitive, but I do think they'll probably go down. Okay, and then we go on to the cups. So who wins the FA Cup? Who wins the League Cup, Frankie?
FA Cup, I'm going to say Man City. League Cup, a bit of a rogue one. Just because I think the Champions League, the number of games, I think a lot of these top teams aren't really going to take it as seriously.
Hmm.
Maybe Newcastle. Maybe
I was
Newcastle.
I was thinking Newcastle. Yeah, actually, I would have gone Man City and Newcastle. But I'm going to say Man City and West Ham.
Okay.
Uh, I just think West Ham, as I said, they've had a really good transfer window. I think they do look quite strong, and they've looked good in cup competitions, obviously in Europe the past couple of seasons. So I think potentially it could be their year. Champions League, who wins that?
Oh, I mean, you could throw anything up. I think Arsenal defensively could actually do it. I think Arsenal could do it. Yeah, just because I think the defense is really strong, and those sorts of teams are good in tournaments. But Kylian Mbappe is at Real Madrid now.
Yeah.
I think maybe Real Madrid do it again.
I just think,
they could.
Vinny, Bellingham, and Mbappe is just.
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo.
Villa. We could lay the smack down on them in the final. I've already got my tickets booked.
Nedeljkovic scoring his 30th goal of the season in the final of the Champions League.
And do you know what? I'm going to look around at each and every Villa fan is there. Every Real Madrid fan say, I told you. I told you.
I told you in August.
Please like and subscribe. I told you. Be really obnoxious about it. But yeah, I think I'll just get Real Madrid.
Yeah, ditto. And what insane thing will happen this year? We always love this question. I don't know. I can't remember I think I said last year that Elon Musk would broadcast a game on the moon or something.
Yeah.
That didn't happen, but again, I wouldn't put it past him this season.
He can't broadcast a bloody interview on his own social media site, can he? What is it? Every single time he tries to do one, there's tech glitches.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah. Thanks, Elon. You're really doing a great job with Twitex or whatever it's called now. No, I think insane thing. I will go. Birmingham City's owners, the Wagner Group, decide that the Wagner Group. They decide that that Birmingham, England, is just not sexy enough, and that actually it's about time we had a soccer team playing in England based in the US. So they're going to move Birmingham City to Birmingham, Alabama. And that'll be it.
The ultimate franchise club. They'd be called like I don't know. They'd be called like the Blues Dons or something.
That'll be it. They'll be the Birmingham Gators. They'll be losing. They'll be losing 2-0 to Shrewsbury in Birmingham, Alabama, at some point this season. Yeah. There might actually, as a serious one, there might be a player strike as well with the Club World Cup.
Oh, yeah, that's not a bad shout.
I can see one of the first. Maybe I don't know if there's ever been a player strike that I can think of, but I think there might be one this coming season.
I'm going to say Man City relegated.
Yes,
it comes back. The charge that they're guilty on every single count, and they get what happened. You remember what happened to Juventus when they were caught match fixing? They just get dumped into the champion. Imagine Man City in the championship.
Oh,
fantastic!
I'm sure the championship clubs would love it.
Have them playing out in Birmingham, Alabama, against the Blue Nose Gators or whatever they're going to be called. The Blues Bayous.
Yeah.
So there we are.
One of the problems for Blues in Alabama is that Aston Villa's most prominent fan, Forrest Gump, is from Greenbow, Alabama. So there's already a Villa contingent out there.
That's true, yeah.
Greenbow versus Birmingham FC, Birmingham Gators, or whatever you call it. It's going to be a huge game.
It's going to be tasty out there, isn't it? In the heat of the Deep South. So there we are, Frankie. There are our predictions. I do look forward to listening back to this in literally 5 weeks' time and thinking, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
Top absolutely. 6 will be lucky to stay in the league.
Once Unai Emery's the first manager sacked, he'll be like, oh, why didn't I call that?
Yeah, but hey, listen, it's very exciting. It is all very exciting, and kickoff is literally days away, hours away. Saturday afternoon kickoff against West Ham, against the Irons of West Ham. When Duran scores that winning goal in the 95th minute, I'll be there. Frankie, will you be there?
I literally will be, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm
going to the game.
Nice. Well, I'll be with you in spirit, Frankie, of course. Yeah. I'll be watching the game from the comfort of my own house in Cardiff. But we'll, of course, be reviewing that game. But until then, come on, Super Aston Villa.